Family nickname. I had two brothers and a sister, but my brother Bob was the only one, and I don't know why, but even right from an infant, he always called me Binkie, and the nickname stuck. Nobody else in the family ever called me Binkie except my brother Bob, and of course, when I got from the Air Force, somebody knew my nickname and it stuck. And it's been Binkie ever since.
Tell us about your early life. Where were you born, Ron?
In Grays in Essex. And it was a very poor area. And funnily enough, we had a brewery at the end of the road. Yes, Seabrook's Brewery, and that was in the 1920s. August 19th, 1922.
Did you have many brothers and sisters?
I had two brothers and one sister.
What about your parents? What did they do?
Well, Dad worked and Mum was Mum. And she was semi-invalided. I mean, I didn't know at the time, but she had a double hernia. And as a youngster, 4 years old, I used to help my mother. It's unheard of now. I used to help her with the washing, with the old tub and pump, and the old wooden mangle. I used to do all that before I went to school, because I was helping my mum. And I did that. I'd go shopping in my lunch hour. She'd send me down to Grays High Street to get this and that. And it was just something I did. I mean, to me, it was something that a little boy had to do to help his mother. And I never ever created about it because she was my mum. I had a wonderful school. I started at Arthur Street Infant School. Well, I don't want to be big-headed, but apparently I was a bright infant. And the headmistress, Mrs. Walsham, she encouraged me with my education. And when I into what they called the big boys, the main school, I was doing well, and I didn't know at the time, but we had an examination, and I was told that I had passed to go to the Palmer's College at Grays, which was an honour. And of course I was as pleased as punch. I think I was bright enough to go to Palmer's. But unfortunately my mother said, well, I'm sorry son, she said, but we can't afford to let you go, because it was more or less a private school. You had to have a uniform and all this and that and the other. And mother just couldn't afford to do it, so I missed out there. But it's something I've never held it against anybody. I mean, to me, I was just my mum's boy, and whatever my mum wanted me to do, I did. I used to go shopping. When I was at Sunday school, I'd come home lunchtime, change into clothes, and I'd clean all the old knives, forks and spoons, and then I'd go round with the cleaning all the doorknobs, and then I'd change. I'd back go after lunch, go back to Sunday school in the afternoon.
So who encouraged you to go to Sunday school?
Nobody encouraged me. My mother sent me, and I loved it. And now I'm 91 and I still go to church.
Which one do you go to?
St Clement's at West Thurrock.
What do you like about church?
It's church. I was brought up to believe in the Lord Jesus, and I've never faltered. All through my wartime days, I used to go to church parades, loved it, and what can I say?
Do you believe that God helped you survive the war?
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. And to, I must tell you this, what's further engendered is the word to my religion was a chap there who was a religious man, and when we were under fire from when Germans had the jet-propelled aircraft, they dropping AP bombs on us. We had to take shelter, all except this friend Bill, and he's God is my witness. One particular day, it was very, very bad. We all took shelter except Bill, and he kept working on his aircraft. Afterwards, when the all clear was going, we all rounded on him and called him all the fatheads under the sun for not taking cover. And he simply said, I can always remember his words, he said, I have no fear. My Lord Jesus will look after me. He had no fear. Such was his faith was in his God. And that sort of encouraged me to step up my belief.
It must have been an amazing sight, you sheltering while bombs were dropping all around him.
Yes. Well, yeah, but when you're talking about bombs, I'm talking about anti-personnel bombs, because the Jerry got to know that we would, when he come with strafing, we would go down the slit trenches. Well, he hit on the idea of dropping AP bombs which would explode about 30, 40 feet in the air and throw the shrapnel down. So if you was in a foxhole, it was no good. So we hit on the idea of getting scraps of corrugated iron, then pieces of wood, anything that we could pull over the slit trenches. It was like that. That's the way we carried on.
So if a bomb had gone off above his head, he would be dead?
Yeah, the chance was there, yeah. Because you say the anti-personnel, they used to fragmentate. They were fragmentation bombs and throw it down. So if you was down the hole, it would still get you. So that's why we hit on the idea of getting odd bits of. So I've seen the film called The Battle of the Bulge, and it's absolute tripe. And it doesn't tell the real story. Now, if you watch that film, there's no snow about. There's no sign of snow. But at the Battle of the Bulge, I was at Volkel Airfield in Holland at the time, and we had about 3 to 4 feet of snow, and all the American Air Force was grounded because of the depth of the snow. Right, now we on our airfield, we did no more but get shovels and brooms, and we kept our runways swept clear, and we kept it clear. And we had 4 squadrons of Typhoons, 174, 175, 184 and 245. And we spent the entire Christmas period of our aircraft going down to Bastogne area where the Americans were holed up, taking out tanks and big guns, whatever the Americans asked it to do. They couldn't do it, their aircraft were grounded. But, as you know, the weather altered, and General Patton come up, and of course General Patton, he won the Battle of the Bulge. but there's never been a word, not from our sources, the American sources, of what the 2nd Tactical Air Force did at the Battle of the Bulge. We won that Battle of the Bulge because we kept our aircraft and they were taking out tanks and guns that the Americans couldn't do. And it's never ever been publicised in any shape or form. Nobody's ever said well done for the 2nd Tactical Air Force.
Perhaps it's another American rewrite of war history.
Well,
Perhaps the Americans were embarrassed that their planes should have flown if they'd only got their guys out sweeping the runways.
Well, this is what we did. We had, honest to God, we had on Vocal, it was a huge airfield. We had our Typhoon wing, there was a Spitfire wing, and there was a Tempest wing, all on the one airfield at Vocal.
And which aircraft were armed enough to bust tanks? Which ones took off?
Well, I was on rocket firing Typhoons, and I will say this, we had a wonderful rapport with the soldiers, because most of the soldiers, I used to call them the flying wiggle pins. That was their nickname, because if they had a tank or big gun wanted taken out, they'd get through to us. And our Typhoon, to a rocket firing, as you know, they were like a shell. They went straight to the, and the soldiers themselves, when they used to come and visit us at our airstrip, used to say, when the Tiffies are about, we come out and watch. Such was the faith they had in our Tiffies, that they could take out tanks, big guns, whatever they wanted taken out, we could take it out. And that's why they call them the flying wiggle pins.
What about how many German tanks do you think the Tiffies destroyed?
No idea. No, I wouldn't hazard a guess.
1 or 2, 3 or 4?
Oh no. It's got to be in perhaps treble figures. Every day, all day, we were out taking tanks.
And yet there's not one mention of your part in the Battle of the Bulge. It was won by the American ground troops.
When all the damage was done, General Patton, once the snow came, he came up and, as you know, they held, you must give them credit, they held on to Bastogne. They did hold on to Bastogne, but they couldn't have done it without us. No way.
Going back to your beginning with the RAF, did you volunteer as a young lad?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, it goes back to about 1936, when I told you I was a church person. The Grace Parish Church had their own troop of Boy Scouts. So I joined the Boy Scouts. And it was I loved being in the Scouts, and I got to be a troop leader. And of course, as you know, we used to get all the badges. And one badge particularly took my fancy, but that was getting an airman's badge. So I did no more. I got on my bicycle one weekend. I cycled from Grace to Hornchurch Airfield, and I was stopped at the gate, and I told them what I wanted, and they were very, very kind. And I told them, explained, I wanted to know how I could get my airman's badge, and I went over. I used to cycle over to Hornchurch Aerodrome for about 5 or 6 weeks until I was happy that the personnel at the Horn Church sanctioned that I had passed and wanted to get my Airman's badge, which was did. And from there on, I just wanted to be in the Air Force. And then when the Battle of Britain was underway, I decided with my mate that we'd like to join the Air Force. I never even asked my mother. We just went over to Horn Church, Romford. Went over to Romford, recruiting station, and joined up then.
Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this closer because that idiot has started up again. The closer I am to you, the better we can get this up.
Romford, they had a recruiting centre there, and I went with my friend Eddie Gurnett, and we just joined on one Saturday afternoon. And we had to wait. We were tested at, I can't tell you where it was now, but we were tested, and we were called up just on the start of 1941, 91 Squadron. That was at Hawkinge, just outside Folkestone in Kent. And they had the Spitfire 5Bs, and they were strictly what we called a Jim Crow Squadron, they spotted squadron, which you must think back, we were just, 23 miles from the French coast. I mean, so we had regular visitors from the Luftwaffe, but we were just spotting, mainly keeping eyes on the possibility of Germans anticipating an invasion. We used to go around every day, 4 up, 4 down, from about 6 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. 4 up, 4 down, just patrolling the French coast to see what was going on.
Did you take part in the Battle of Britain, or was that earlier?
No. Well, like I said before, we joined the Air Force during the Battle of Britain. You could say we were in the Air Force at the Battle of Britain, but it was just pending, sort of waiting to be called up.
So did things get rougher for you when you moved to other stations?
All depends. Sometimes we never saw anything, sometimes we were under constant surveillance. But,
did you ever come under heavy attack from German fighters?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Especially on New Year's Day in 1941. I mean, as you know, that was the Luftwaffe's last throw of the dice. Although they had a certain amount of success, they destroyed about 150 RAF aircraft on the ground and whatnot. But their losses were so great that day that they never ever recovered. Whereas, although we lost about 150 to 200 aircraft between the RAF and the US Air Force, we were back to full strength in about 10 days. So it was just a waste of time and life. The Germans trying, but they were never ever recovered from it. That was the end of the Luftwaffe as far as war was concerned. They had one brief spell when they brought out the Me-262, the jet propelled. But the thing was, they hadn't got the fuel. They got the aircraft, but they hadn't got the fuel.
That was very fortunate.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. That was part of the American strategy. They insisted on, when they're daylight bombers, they insisted on attacking the oil refineries and whatnot. So the Germans, they got no fuel for their tanks, the aircraft or anything, come to finish. they had the aircraft, but there's nothing to fly with.
Tell us a bit about your book, Binkie. How did your book come about?
Well, it all started through our MP at the time, Andrew McKinley. He was our Member of Parliament, and he was keen on, he's a historian as well as being an MP, and I used to see him down at the Heritage at Purfleet, where I used to attend regularly, and one day he was in there, I was in uniform, and he approached me. He said, "Excuse me, Ron," he said, "but you've got a combined ops badge on your sleeve." I said, "That's right, Andrew." So he said, "How come?" So I told him that I belonged to the servicing commandos. Now, he was a historian, and he said, "I must admit, Ron, I never ever knew that they existed. That was how secret we were." And through that, he said to me, "If you've got a little while after lunch, would you like to give a talk about what you did?" I did that. They had a brief talk. I mean, I could have talked for weeks about it. But he said, "Do you know what, Ron?" He said, "That would make a good book." He said, "No, I've got just the man who will help you." As it happened, Richard Smith was there, and he introduced me to Richard, and it just happened from then. I started putting it down on the paper, and I submitted it. Till they thought it was fit for publication, and that's how it come to be published.
When did it get published?
I would say just about a year ago. Might be a bit longer, but it was somewhere about this time last year.
And how old were you when it was published?
How old was I? 89, I suppose.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Tell us about the commando unit you were with.
Yes, right. It all started after the disastrous attack at Dieppe. Montgomery didn't want it to happen, even at that stage. And as you know, it was an absolute disaster because there was no air cover. So Lord Louis Mountbatten came up with the idea is that in future, any raids like that, there must be sufficient air cover. So his idea was to form a squad of technicians, you know, fitters, armourers, riggers, instrument people, everybody who associated with aircraft maintenance. We'd train them, give them commando training, and I mean commando training. We'd retrain with commandos. So that in future, any further venture like that, servicing commandos would go ashore with the ordinary commandos. The idea was to capture an enemy or an occupied airfield. Once that was occupied, we could get the aircraft to come in and we would refuel and rearm them so that they could cover the main invasion forces. And it worked. And the first full operation was Operation Torch in North. But I've unfortunately I couldn't make it. I was with the commandos, we were all ready, and we were involved while we were waiting. We were involved in manoeuvres with the army commandos, and we was at Martlesham Heath in Suffolk at the time. Anyway, we had this set to with the army boys, and as God is my witness, I don't remember exactly what happened. All I know was we were at it, and I felt this terrible pain in my knee. Whether it hit me with a rifle butt or not, I don't know. And I remember as I went down to the ground, I thought, if this was real, I'd be dead. But anyway, I couldn't get up, and they picked me up, and took me to sick quarters at Martlesham Heath. And they said, well, there's nothing we can do, we're going to take you to Ipswich Hospital.
Probably had your life saved by Providence smashing that kneecap.
Well, you read this, it's got here in black and white. Includes elite and fate would take him to undertake other roles and experience within the Royal Air Force, including the little known but elite RAF servicing commando units. And this is the thing, and luck would play an important part in saving his life many times, and that is absolutely true.
Yeah, that's right. So what did you move on to after you were invalided out of commando, yeah, but you returned to the services?
Well, I never left the services, I was just posted. And after a spell of working in the stores at Martlesham, I was then seconded into the 2nd Tactical Air Force. It went to, I can't think of where we went now, but that was in February 1944, I think, and it was a similar sort of thing as the commandos, but no fighting. It was purely a mobile RAF unit of technicians and servicemen, so that the idea was, in the event of an armed invasion, we would go ashore, and our Typhoon wing, where I was, we had a sister wing, 124, and we were trained that as the army moved forward, we would leapfrog each other. As we went forward, we could be too far, and we'd be behind a long way. And number 124 would overtake us to carry on. Then when they was running short, we'd take. So all the time we were advancing, this Tactical Air Force was with them. We kept braced with them. And I think I told you before, when we were in Normandy, the army boys used to call them the flying winkle pins. They'd only got to whistle up the Typhoons, and we'd go down and we'd take out anything. Even if it was only a mortar, we could take it out.
Marvellous aeroplanes.
Yeah. Very, very underestimated. The only thing was, and this is no bull, I've got a video indoors all about the Typhoons, and there was one pilot they interviewed, and he said, and it's there, anybody's welcome to see it if they want to see it. His own words were the fact that the Typhoons lost more fighters shot down by the American Air Force than the Luftwaffe and the erks combined. The Americans never could sort them out. Even though they got black and white stripes on their wings and on the body, the Americans couldn't resist to shoot them down. We lost more Typhoons through them than the enemy. That's fact. That's not just me talking, that is fact.
Where were you when the war ended, Ron?
Schleswig-Holstein, right on the Danish border.
How did you hear the news that war was over, that they'd surrendered?
Well, it was anticipated. It was just anticipated. We knew Jerry was on his last knockings, and I will tell you this, and this is something that I haven't told many people about, although it is in the book. When just before we moved to Schleswig, I forget exactly where we were in Germany, but wherever it was, there was a horrible stench in the air. It stunk to high heaven. Nobody could understand what it was. Well, at the time, I was an instrument mech. I'd made friends with the boys in the photographic section, and whenever I wasn't busy, I used to go and help them in there, so it's another string to me bow sort of thing. Well, this particular time, a couple of pilots had gone out and they came back, and they said to Johnny Johnson, the corporal in charge of the photographic section, develop this as soon as you can, will you? Of course, I was in there when it was done, and they had unintentionally come across Belsen camp. They got their cameras and they photographed everything. And I've seen the originals myself. And you could never ever imagine. You've seen pictures of it, but we then realised what the stink was. Although it was about 10, 12 miles away, when the wind blew, it was hot. That was Mel Belsen.
So that was human beings being burned?
Yeah. And leaving the stench was from the corpses laying about. All the corpses were just left there. They couldn't be bothered with burying them. There were so many of them. They were just rotting.
Thousands of corpses?
Yeah. And afterwards, the army, they got bulldozers, dug huge trenches, 30 foot wide, and just got hold of the corpses and threw them in. There's no identification, nothing. But I can't say that I know this for fact, because I wasn't there. But different people in the army said that when when we'd overtaken the Belsen camp, and they got the German civilians to come and see what their servicemen had done, they said half the ladies there thought it was a huge joke to see all these corpses. Because they were Jews, that's they.
When did you first find your faith, Ron?
I don't think I found it. I think it found me. I think it found me.
How did it
find you? As an infant. Well, like I said, as from a 4-year-old, I used to go to Sunday school in Grays. I used to go morning and afternoon. Anyway, what I was going to say, when I started elementary school, at Arthur Street in Grays. Our first teacher was, she said, now children, we've got to, every day before we have lessons, I'm going to learn you how to say the Lord's Prayer. It was Miss Oakley, this old lady. So she said, I will teach you how to say the Lord's Prayer. So called Big Ed put his hand up. Please, miss, I know the Lord's Prayer. So she said, how do you know it? I said, because I learned it at Sunday school. And I had to recite it to the rest of the class to prove that I knew. That's a fact. So, like you say, I didn't find religion, religion found me.
Do you look forward to death?
How do I say that?
Do you look forward to going to heaven?
I tell my wife every night before I go to bed, I shall love her until I meet her in heaven. When? It's not in my hands. That's in the Lord's hands.
What's her name?
When?
Where did you meet?
Avely Village Hall. Avely in Essex. I was in the band, and one of my friends, he said, I happened to say to him at work, I said, I shall be over Avely Monday night, Jim. So he said, what are you doing over here? I said, I'm playing at Village Hall in the band. Oh, he said, me and Rose are going. He said, no, I'll tell you what, Ron. He said, there's a little girl lives next door to me, she never goes anywhere. I'll bring her along with me, you can meet her. I don't want you to bring any girl to me. But he brought this little girl along to me. We married.
Was it love at first sight?
Not really. We sort of took to each other. I asked her if I could take her to the pictures on the Saturday night. And she said, well, I can't Saturday night. She said, I've got to go to my cousin's party. So I said, oh. So she said, if I ask Pam if you can come, if I can bring you to the party, will you bring your guitar so to play? I said, yes. So I took my guitar, and that was it. And Win and I had been together, and that was 1940. So we were together just that 70 years. We were married 68 years.
She must have been very worried when you went off to fight the war in Europe.
Yeah. She's a lovely girl. That was my Win.
Lovely girl. And she sadly passed away a few years ago.
5 years ago, yeah.
And you've soldiered on ever since.
Oh yeah. I do everything myself. Washing, ironing, cooking, cleaning, gardening.
Do you still go to church?
Oh yeah.
How do you get there?
Walk. It's only just down the road. So,
what would be your message to young people today about your faith? Would you tell them to put their trust in Jesus?
you might just well talk to yourself these days. As long as they've got something in your ear hole, that's all they worry about. That's my honest opinion. Who was it? A famous American comedian said, oh, Sam Goldwyn, wasn't it? He said, you can include me out. Yeah, you can include me out. That's Sam Goldwyn. See, the old brain box still works.
You like your little jokes and stories, don't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You got any more up your sleeve?
Our vicar, Michelle, she said to me about 2 years ago, she said, Ron, I think you're the funniest man I've ever met in my life. She said, you don't take anything seriously, do you? Yeah. Except my religion, I do take that seriously.
Brilliant. I've got a fantastic interview there, Ron.
One of our planes was missing, 2 hours overdue. One of our planes was missing with all its gallant crew. The radio sets were humming, they waited for the word. Then a voice broke through the humming, and this is what they heard. Coming in on a wing and a prayer. Coming in on a wing and a prayer. Though there's one motor gone, we can still carry on. Coming in on a wing and a prayer. What a show, what a fight. Yes, we really hit our target for tonight. How we sing as we limp through the air. Look below, there's our field over there. With our full crew aboard and our trust in the Lord, we're coming in on a wing and a prayer. We sing as we limp through the air. Look below, there's our field over there. With our full crew aboard and our trust in the Lord, we're coming in on a wing and a prayer.